I've tried a few times to make this video and it's proving difficult because I've really got quite a lot to say about what's gone on in some instances regarding people's anti-intellectual confirmation bias and the fact that they are pretending to build factual discoveries of their own when all they're doing is collecting information, sometimes absolutely incorrect, and putting it together in a way that just serves their confirmation bias. And what's allowing them to do this is the sense of power and safety they're getting from all the other people on YouTube who are doing the same thing and making them feel like they're safe and that it's okay to do this, to persecute one person. And this really is mob mentality. But you know, I just find, I mean, I'm a twit. I can be a twit, okay? And I know that, and I know I often get things around the wrong way, and I'm a human being, and you know, I have trouble sometimes expressing myself or thinking in a clear way, and I certainly have lacks in knowledge, and you know, I have strengths in my thinking, but I do have an extremely high IQ. I know people wouldn't believe that, but I do, but I'm also a twit. So what I find really disturbing, and you can't even have a conversation about them, people, you know, that are making these videos that are so biased, they are anti-intellectual, that they actually just hate speech in a way, and they feel like they've got the right to do it, and what's giving them that power is because so many others are doing it. So I wanted to just link down below Jim Wagner's video that he's made. So Jim Wagner's a journalist. You probably already watch him, maybe like you already watched John Kelly Profiler. But Jim Wagner, he's a local to Salida. He's lived there for many years, and he's actually lived in Maysville. I think he lived in Maysville for 10 years, and he knows the mountains. And he's having a conversation with his friend Lieutenant Spivey, and they're discussing the mountain lion option. Okay, Suzanne Morphew is a woman that is missing, and Suzanne Morphew is a diminutive woman that could easily have been taken by an abductor, and the police are obliged to investigate that option fully. Obviously, they must be seen to do that. Whether or not they think a mountain lion might have taken Suzanne, and there's just no proof. So the mountain lion theory, it is an option. People discount it, and I know a certain YouTubing channel had experts on and they discounted it, but they had incorrect data in there which they refused to move, and also they have a huge confirmation bias. These are we think they're we don't know really what their capacity is officially. They wear many hats, and part of their role though here is representing the Cold Case Foundation, which is a not-for-profit organisation, and it's a 5013C, you know, that they exist. And you know, they have discussed the mountain lion theory and just discounted it because it suits their own outspoken theory that Barry Morphew is a domestic violence perpetrator and that he murdered Suzanne Morphew. That is basically what Chris McDonough and Mike King state. Over and over again they've done it. Andy Mormon has stated it as well. And in fact, the day that he flew into Salida at first, on May the 11th, he basically told his brother-in-law that, and they haven't spoken since. So the mountain lion option, well, you know, there's elk. What are in Maysville? What are in Salida? What are all through these mountains? Excuse me, it's hot. Elk. They have racks, yes, and you find those racks, but what else do you find? You don't find bloodied, murderous scenes all through the forest. Now, the Morphew home at Puma Path, that is nestled into national forest and into their own acreage of trees with water source, and it's teeming with elk, and elk is the main food source for mountain lions, and elk disappear entirely, not leaving a trace, and a small human being like Suzanne Morphew could easily be taken and without a trace, except maybe a few clothing items. So it is entirely possible, and it's not disproven, that Suzanne Morphew went for a bike ride on Sunday and was going to take herself down to Poncha Springs Cafe. So Poncha Springs is before Salida, before you get to Salida going from the Morphew home. And they frequented there. Barry and Suzanne are known there, by sight at least, you know. That's their local, okay? And it's completely within the realms of believability, possibility, feasibility that Suzanne Morphew was going to take herself down for a coffee or a brunch at Poncha Springs Cafe on the morning she disappeared, on Mother's Day. Now, you guys are making a lot out of what Spezzy said about Barry being the last to see her, okay? But don't you see what they're trying to actually say here is, well, maybe the last to see her on Sunday morning, not killing her on Saturday night. I don't know. Puma Path was blocked going on the way to Poncha Springs Cafe. Suzanne would have gone exactly where her bike was found, Highway 50, 225, just down in here in that little corner, okay, of the junction of these roads. Now, coming down the slope from Highway 225 where the bike was found, you can go along flat path, a flat plane. I mean, it's, you know, it's rugged, but it's horizontal, and you can go to Foosa's Dam that way, and that's the way a mountain lion would probably drag Suzanne. And it's entirely possible. There is no evidence against Barry Morphew. Of course, he has to be investigated. He would have to remain low-key person of interest. I don't know how they would ever actually be able to come out and clear him unless it can be proven Suzanne Morphew has died a particular way or has disappeared by other means other than Barry Morphew. And, you know, the YouTubers that feel like they've got this right, they've got this bravado and this boldness given to them by other YouTubers who are making these absolutely disgusting videos full of confirmation bias, beyond that hate speech, whether it's a cartoon, whether it's a podcast type show with experts. This man is being absolutely attacked, violently attacked. His life is already devastated with the loss of his wife, Suzanne. We don't know what's happened to her. You don't know. Yes, Barry might be responsible, but it's very likely other things have happened as well. And there is no evidence pointing to Barry at this time, okay? You can cherry pick all the circumstantial evidence that you like, and you might cherry pick some mitigating circumstances, such as, oh, you know, her illness and the trouble with the farm and the medical marijuana, and you know, just stop. Just stop. Okay, think of what you're doing, to the way you guys speak. Oh, you know, Mallory and Macy know now, you know, and you know this and you know that. Oh my God. I mean, your confirmation bias is showing all the time. Okay, it's like people who see narcissism everywhere. I mean, I've had to hold, but you know, I am holding back obviously now, because there are people that think they're creating their own types of discovery, and they're cherry picking and using confirmation bias to put together these pathetic half-assed lists that are anti-intellectual. They do not contain the facts and figures in wholeness. I know I'm a twit. I am a twit, okay? I get things wrong all the time. I have lapses and things. A lot of it's to do with emotional stuff. So I'm a twit, but I have an extremely high IQ. You might not believe it, but I do. And yeah, it's just so saddening. So saddening. But, you know, bigger YouTubers are pulling along these little groups of fucking baby boomers who have discovered YouTube, and they are so rude. They are so cruel and crude in their extrapolations. Yeah, so Jim Wagoner, go and have a listen. I'll link it in the description or in the comments, and or both, and have a listen, and just, you know, he explains it in a very common sense way. You know, people need to learn to have a conversation. You know, you'll go, I go places and I'll go, oh, but okay, well, what about this? Or did you know this? People are just like, go to your own channel. It's like, well, this is called, you know, they don't understand. Have a conversation about it. You just don't. They just basically say, I don't give a shit for facts. I'm going to believe what I want, and I'm going to suffer under misapprehensions, misunderstanding. That's how I want to live my life. I'm that kind of idiot. I'm that kind of moron, and I carry that kind of hate in my heart. It's more important for them to be able to dole out the hate and feel like they're popular and part of the in crowd. I mean, it's laughable. It is laughable. You know, I've had to hold back recently about, you know, I know I don't make videos about people, and I did make two, but it's in reaction to things that she does that I find can hurt people. Okay, can hurt people. And the latest one is no different, where her first live comes out and just, it shows an appalling lack of judgment, a lack of intuition, a lack of professional knowledge and understanding, a lack of an ability to analyze a situation. You know, and of course now the classic backpedaling in a voice that just is like 1,000 cats ripping the flesh from your body. You know, because if someone is a professional and in a professional capacity, they do working with mental health, and they are making commentary on people's mental health and consistently showing very poor judgment, I think that's something to be concerned about, whether it's a hobby channel or not, like this is for me. You know, just to have your say. Unfortunately, when you're setting yourself up as an expert like someone is, and talk and saying I'm going to educate you, when you're consistently getting it wrong, often backpedaling, I think it's a joke, but it's a joke that actually has serious real world ramifications. Yes, it's for entertainment purposes, but people take what they hear on these channels into the real world, don't they? They take it into their lives, and that's what's happening. That's what's happening with these often baby boomer channels or these regurgitator repeat channels, the gossiping channels and things like that, that just are regurgitating based on having this sense of security and that safety in numbers to you know, and they want to get that feeling of belonging, and you know, that's why I say I'm happy, I'm independent, I'm happy to be that. It's not that I don't agree with other smaller YouTubers and that I want to stand up for righteous behavior, you know, and human rights, basically. But at the end of the day, people sometimes expect you to 100% be a sycophant or a joiner or a, you know, all the time. And that's just not possible, because we're all unique. We all have our own perspectives and our own beliefs and our own understanding of things. And you shouldn't have to agree with everything someone says to support them. And as long as they're open for a conversation about the things that you don't agree on, you know, I get nasty, you know, I've got people making videos about me too, you know, I do, but I'm ignoring it, but because, you know, I think you can't 100%, you can't rule people out, okay? In the case of missing woman Suzanne Morphew, I can't in conscience rule Barry out. My heart wants to believe, I mean, this man is 100% innocent and that he is, you know, he is a victim here. And because, you know, it's just tragedy on tragedy for Suzanne to have lost her life knowing that it's her own husband, okay? And for her girls to have that tragedy on tragedy of a murderer being their own father, okay? You know, so I don't want that to be the case. Can I accept it? If it is the case, yes, I will accept it. But what I can also accept, okay, is that Barry Morphew could be a huge victim here and innocent, that a mountain lion might have taken Suzanne, that an abductor might have taken Suzanne, a kidnapper, that she, has met with foul play from animal or another type of beast. That's not Barry Morphew. And could there be a syndicate? Could there be organized crime happening here? Yes, that is also something that might be happening. And you can't discount these things. You need to look at everything, and you need to just think about everything as it unfolds and not I wanted to say something else just then. You know, there's a big channel that, you know, and they have the mountain lion experts and everything. Law enforcement are some of the biggest perpetrators of confirmation bias, or some of the, you know, they have confirmation bias. They also often believe, and they're not, and it's proven that they are just as fallible and gullible about themselves as other human beings. They have a confirmation bias to thinking that they're right all the time, to thinking that they can pick a liar, to thinking that they know when someone is guilty. It's confirmation bias, and that is a fact, okay? So just because retired, we don't know how retired they are, fingers and all these pies, people are telling you that Barry Morphew, basically that he is a domestic violence perpetrator, that he has abused Suzanne Morphew. They're basically telling you that Barry Morphew abused Suzanne Morphew, abused her over a number of years in many different ways, including physically and financially. They're telling you that Barry Morphew murdered his wife. Now, Does that seem professional? Does that seem wise to come out like that? Is that what their job is on YouTube? Just to tell you things, to sway a public like that, and then to join all these other little satellite YouTubers together in this behemoth of hate, where they all feel so powerful, so righteous. That's what they feel. And because they're all backing each other up, they've got this safety barrier. They feel safe to say it. And it's wrong. It's wrong. So go to Jim Wagoner. He's a local, is it salidean? Salidean. And he knows the terrain. He knows the country. He knows wildlife. And he has a little chat about it with his friend, Lieutenant Spivey, who was on the trail of the Green River Killer, unfortunately, who wasn't arrested then before he went on to commit a number of other crimes. But, you know, they're people with various experiences that are having a conversation. Can we try to have more conversations? And, you know, not that I can go around giving out advice, but, you know, I do anyway. If you're a YouTuber and you're getting something wrong and someone wants to update you so that you are not, you know, thinking about things based on incorrect information, just try to have an open mind and listen, because someone might be trying to help you. It's not, you know, it's not to say it's from a perspective of thinking anyone is innocent and so, you know, let's look at something else. You must look at everything anyway. That's what a discovery is. It's all the information. It's not just a list of facts based or incorrect information based on your confirmation bias. It's a collection of everything that you can then analyze. You should be curious and intellectually open and open-hearted to want to accept help and information. And if you're not, you know, yeah, your bias and hate is showing. Yeah, so as a very quick update, as an addendum here to the video that I did make on Michelle Boudreau, Dr. Boudreau, she was calling herself. I believe she hadn't actually gotten her license, and she was practicing. But, you know, Michelle Deegan, she's known as, who brutally murdered her young 7-year-olds. So, yeah, as it comes out, you know, this possible narcissist has killed her children and then suicided. And, you know, she's had a long, you know, lots of marriages. She had a relationship that broke up. A woman moved to come and live near her and support her, gave her $100,000, wanted the money back and took her to court. This was adding stress to Michelle because Michelle was ordered to pay back this money. Michelle has been running her husband. Doesn't this sound familiar? Like Laurie Cox, running her husband back through the court system over and over again, using the children, making probably false allegations about his violence, because that's what these women do. Sometimes men do it, but that's what these women do. Acting in a very openly narcissistic manner. Her neighbours were worried even and called CPS, and the investigation hasn't been able to get to the root of the problem and do anything about it before these children were killed. That is a tragedy. You know, for neighbours to speak up about these things, I think it really needs to be taken seriously, because often people don't, you know, they don't want to interfere. They would have seen some things. This woman had many, many large dogs in her house, so she is living with pressure of duty. She is under pressure from many different angles in her life. And, you know, her husband probably was going for the 50% custody of the children because he knew how enraged she'd be and what might happen if he went for 100%. So maybe he was just trying to get some stability for the girls, okay? But I, you know, in my first video I said, look, is this just, she just hates being rejected? Yeah, she hasn't liked being rejected. She was using those children. You know, I don't know what is involved in her makeup, but obviously I think, you know, this situation was created before Michelle was born, probably. It will be, you know, there will be so many things from her life growing up that have helped to create who she is, how she thinks about the world. You know, I can't diagnose anyone, obviously. No one can like this, but, you know, you do wonder about personality disorders, and definitely narcissistic personality disorder, and then, you know, what stress can do. You know, to me it seemed like she was just framing her ex for what she was about to do. That she's just committed a series of disgusting vile acts, basically, and there's no excuse. And I know people that have suffered at the hands of narcissists are using they're just seething with confirmation bias again, will be relating hand over fist to Michelle. But no, you know, you need to leave your bias at the door, okay? Just like you leave a thumbs up or a thumbs down when you go on a channel, if you do, or, you know, you leave leave your bias at the door. You have to look at everything fresh. And I don't know, it just seemed pretty clear to me what was going on there. And you know, courts are becoming more aware that they have to assess people when these allegations are made, because more and more often it is the person making these allegations that is the perpetrator, or possibly it's both parties, both parents, both adults. But more often than not now, even when there's you know, that it's like with Laurie Cox, it's a series of attacks about violence, about, you know, stalking, about mistreatment, about financial mistreatment, you know, and it's never ending, and it's exhausting, and it's the person being attacked, but then they're turning around and being the victim, and it's how they operate. It's their MO, right? And it's wrong. And so courts need to run these assessments to actually find out, is this true? I would like to know, were these little twins, were they assessed psychologically? Did someone speak to them, try and find out what's going on? What did the schools think? You know, Michelle would have been homeschooling for a while, but before this, you know, were there any issues at school? What are in these girls' school reports? Or, you know, has anything been noticed? And are people bamboozled because this woman's got these psych degrees? She knows how to soothe them, how to talk to them, how to explain it. She'll explain any behavior. She could literally get away with murder, couldn't she? Oh, she did. You know, because don't just take things, don't be, you know, respecting people's intellect and training and knowledge and everything is one thing, but we must always stop and think in every situation and really look and really say, okay, well, great, she's saying this and that. Now I'm going to analyze it. Let me look at this. Because Michelle got away with murder, didn't she? And she nearly got away with framing her ex-husband, one of her ex-husbands, the father of these twins, I would assume. And, you know, these twins, I am convinced now it is IVF, because you look at them and they're not identical twins. Although I guess you can have natural and identical twins, but they do look like two different embryos have been planted. What a lot to go through, you know. And she just wanted to lay down as much hurt and devastation, ending her own miserable life, getting out of her situation as possible. And, you know, and NPD is likely because NPD people, you know, not only, yeah, they have a lot of difficulties in life and with relationships, and they are at great risk of suicide. Anyway, that's 30 minutes. Thanks for listening again. See you later.